Some things don't die. They just wait. In boxes, in drawers, in that corner of your memory you've learned not to touch. It was a Tuesday, February. That kind of LA rain, not real rain, more like the air gave up halfway. I was in my office, second floor above a pawn shop that hadn't opened in years, but still kept the neon lit like hope meant something. The coffee was older than it had any right to be, and I was just sitting, thinking about nothing. That kind of day. Then, the knock. 3 slow taps, not polite, not urgent, just deliberate. When I opened the door, no one was there. Just a package on the floor. Brown paper taped twice over. No return address. Only one thing written on it in thick black marker. Jack Rourke. Inside on a VHS tape, old frayed label. Just one word on it. Del Rio. And underneath, faint, in red ink. Alexei Morozov. I hadn't seen that name in 16 years. I didn't say anything. Didn't pour a drink. Just walked over to the corner and slid it into my old Toshiba player. The one I kept for clients who lied better on analog. Static, then flicker, then image. It was a basement, concrete, 1 light bulb swinging, 4 men, 3 standing, 1 on his knees. No insignias, no flags, just stillness and control. One of them stepped forward and pulled the hood off the kneeling man, and I froze. I knew that face. Not well, but well enough. He was younger, cleaner. There was something in his eyes, like peace, but wrong. And then, he looked straight at the camera, and he said it. "Tell Jack Rourke, I forgive him." Then Ashuri, the shot, muzzle flash, static, and silence. I sat there for, I don't know how long. The tape ejected itself. The screen turned blue, and all I could hear was his voice echoing around the inside of my skull. Alexei Morozov, Honduras, 1992. Operation Solace River. It was never peaceful, never clean. I was told he died. Presumed KIA. But Alexei was the kind of man who'd fake his death just to get one more shot. And the timestamp on the video? July 3rd, 1992. But the label on the box? It was dated last week. I flipped the cassette over. On the edge, faint pencil marks. They're still cleaning it up. That was when my chest tightened. I opened a drawer, pulled out an old photo. My daughter, red jacket, big smile, holding the same camcorder that filmed my wedding. Her first steps, my first case. She used to record everything, even when I wasn't ready to be seen. She died the same year Alexei disappeared. Different reason, same hole, and now this tape, this name, this voice saying my name like I still mattered. I placed the cassette back in the box and sat in the dark, long enough to remember what it feels like when the past knocks twice. There's a smell that never leaves you. Burned paper, melted plastic, and underneath it all, something human. I smelled it again the moment I stepped out of the car. It was late, desert air. The remains of a fire that happened weeks ago still clung to the bones of the building. The place used to be a federal records center. Now, a blackened shell, like someone had reached into history and lit a match. I stood at the edge of the rubble, hands in my coat. In the distance, coyotes howled like they knew something I didn't. This was the last place I knew where clean frame might have left a footprint, and someone had erased it, thoroughly. I stepped through a hole in the wall. Concrete cracked beneath my boots. Ashes danced in the flashlight beam. Tiny white ghosts. The files were gone, melted, flooded, charred, but a few steel drawer labels had survived. Most were unreadable, warped by heat. One of them wasn't. Operación Rio Silente, Silent River. That was the real name, the one we used in the field, the one I hadn't heard out loud since 1992. And with it, the face came back. Not Alexei, someone else. Luis Torres, my spotter, my shadow, my brother without the blood. Luis died on the 3rd day of that mission. We never found his body. Official line was MIA, presumed KIA. But I knew the truth. I left him behind. The guilt has a smell too. It's old sweat and unspoken words. And right there, in that room full of black dust and warped metal, I saw it again. The hillside, the gunfire, Louis shouting my name, and me, running, because I was ordered to, because I believed the voice in my earpiece more than the man who bled for me. The heat in that room wasn't just from the fire, it was from 16 years of regret finally catching up to me. I stumbled backward. The flashlight slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. That's when I saw the folder. It was barely there, stuck between melted cabinets, shielded by a collapsed beam. The edges were singed, but the name was legible. Morozov Alexei. Clearance, Echo Black. I reached for it with hands I hadn't realized were shaking. Inside, just one page had survived, and on it, a single note, scrawled in handwriting I recognized. Del Rio wasn't a location, it was a name. The next day I made a call, burner phone. One ring, no answer. It was a number I hadn't dialed in years. Raymond Decker, my old CO, retired, allegedly. Last I heard, he'd gone off-grid. Desert somewhere. Paranoid, maybe just smart. I left a message. Raymond Decker, this is Jack Rourke. I need to talk. It's about Morozov. It's about Del Rio. If you're still breathing, call me. Click. I crushed the phone and threw it into the arroyo. 3 hours later, I was driving back toward the motel. Radio off, road empty. Then headlights behind me. Too close, too long. I turned left. They followed. Turned right. Still there. By the third corner, I knew. This wasn't coincidence. This was cleanup. I pulled into a gas station, parked, got out. The car behind me didn't stop, didn't even slow. But a few minutes later, I found the message, taped under my windshield wiper. One word printed in red ink. Stop. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the folder like it was a dying thing. Luis Torres, Alexei Morozov, Del Rio. It wasn't just a case. It wasn't even justice. It was something simpler. I wanted to know who I betrayed, because someone out there still remembered, and someone else wanted me to forget. I met her in a diner just off Route 66, a place that still smelled like pancakes and cigarette ash, even though smoking had been banned for 15 years. She was already there when I walked in. Corner booth, leather jacket, hair tied back, a backpack sitting on the seat beside her. Zipped shut but tense, like it had something in it that didn't want to stay quiet. She looked up, eyes sharp, but not cold. I'm Mila Morozova, she said. Then after a pause, I think you knew my father. We sat across from each other. Between Formica, cracked at the edges. The waitress brought coffee. Mila didn't touch hers. I got your name from his notes, she said. He always said, if something ever happened, I should find Jack Rourke. I let the silence breathe. It said more than I could. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out a second tape. Label, Del Rio 2. No date, just one word, underlined, angrily. Where did you get this? I asked. She hesitated. My father left it with someone I used to call Uncle Leo. He died 2 weeks ago. Heart attack officially. But his apartment was turned inside out. Nothing stolen, except photos, papers, except this tape, which they missed. I took the cassette, held it in both hands. It was warm, or maybe I was shaking. Mila leaned forward, voice low. Jack Rourke, whatever my father was chasing, it killed him, but he believed you were the only one who could finish it. We didn't watch the tape there. Too exposed, too many eyes. Instead, we drove, out past the edge of the city, where the streetlights give up and the stars start paying attention. An old motel, one of those places where time stopped sometime around 1989. Wood paneling, CRT television, static hum. I fed the tape into the player. Mila sat beside me, close but tense, like a coiled wire. The screen crackled, then flickered into life. A familiar room, different angle, same concrete floor, same dangling bulb. But this time, there was no execution. This time, Alexei Morozov was talking. He stood in front of the camera, tired, thin, eyes like he hadn't slept in years. "My name is Alexei Morozov," he said. "If you're watching this, I'm either dead or I ran out of places to run." He looked down, fidgeted with something in his hands. A lighter, brass, worn. He clicked it once, flame, then closed it. "I was part of Operation Silent River in 1992. I saw things. We all did. But some of us refused to forget." He looked straight at the lens. "There was a man, not from our team, not from any unit I could trace. He wore a badge with no name, and he executed a civilian. On tape. We were told to burn the footage. I didn't." Click. Lighter again. Flame. Snap shut. "They're still out there, erasing everyone who knows they already got Torres, maybe even Decker, and they'll come for Rourke." He stepped closer. "Jack, if you're seeing this, forgive me. I never told you everything." The screen went black. The room stayed quiet. I looked over at Mila. She was staring at the TV like it might come back to life. "Why didn't he tell me?" I whispered, more to myself than her. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "My father always said you were the only man he ever trusted. But trust doesn't mean honesty." She pulled something from her bag, held it out. A brass lighter. I took it. Same as the one in the video. Worn smooth, still warm from her pocket. I turned it in my hand. And for a moment, I was somewhere else. Back in my kitchen. My daughter laughing. She just found an old camcorder and was filming everything. Even the dog. "Smile, Daddy," she'd said. I didn't smile then. But now, I almost did. I looked at Mila again. She had his fire. But something else too. Steel behind the eyes. "You're not just here because of him," I said. "No," she replied. She reached into her jacket, pulled out a folded map, marked in red ink, circles, names. "I've been following the trail too, longer than he knew." I nodded. For the first time in years, I wasn't alone, but part of me knew. That meant she was in danger now too. Because this story, this fire, it doesn't die, it spreads. The box was heavier than it looked. Inside, files, real ones. No scans, no redacted PDFs. Just old school, stamped, rust-smelling paper. They came from Raymond Decker. He hadn't called me back, but the package arrived the next day. No note, no explanation, only a return address from Yermo, California. Middle of nowhere, and the files. They were stamped with a clearance level I hadn't seen since '92. Echo black. I sat down at the desk, locked the door, closed the blinds, pulled a bottle I'd been saving for the day I retired, and started reading. Clean frame, internal operation memo. It wasn't long, 2 pages, a summary and a protocol chart. No mention of the CIA, no mention of military command, only initials, dates, codes, and at the bottom, target list, draft 1.0, July 6, 1992. There were 12 names. I read them one by one. The first was crossed out, Luis Torres, then Monsieur Del Rio, A. Morozov, and there, line 7, J. Rourke, conditional removal pending review. I stopped breathing. It wasn't just that my name was there. It was that word, pending. They weren't sure, not in '92, but someone had considered it, considered removing me. The air in the room shifted, like the past had just walked in and closed the door behind it. This wasn't a conspiracy to silence the world. This was smaller, tighter, meaner. This was a cleanup of a single event. One day, one tape, one execution that wasn't sanctioned, but got filmed anyway. And now, they were trying to erase every trace of it. Every voice, every camera, every memory, even mine. I looked back at the list. Someone had written notes in pencil, quick, slanted handwriting, not Decker's. Next to Luis Torres, MIA, presumed fulfilled. Next to Alexei Morozov, unconfirmed, under observation until 2006. And next to my name, still active, recommend monitor or discredit. I sat there for a long time, rain ticking against the window like a second hand with no clock. They didn't kill me back then. Why? Because I played along? Because I kept my mouth shut? Or maybe because I didn't remember everything? Not yet. I pulled out the lighter Mila gave me, flipped it open, clicked. Flame, click. Again, click, click. The sound filled the silence like a metronome for ghosts. I had questions, fewer answers. But now I had one name, one lead, Del Rio. The name that started it all, the name they burned people for. And if that name was still alive, I was going to find him. Even if it meant lighting the whole frame on fire. I spent the next 3 days chasing shadows. Not the poetic kind. The kind made of pixels, bad lighting, and bureaucratic decay. I ran the original tape through a digitizer, paused, zoomed, rewound. There were only 22 frames where you could see the masked man's hands. In one, he reaches up, adjusts his hood, and just for a moment, his wrist shows. A tattoo, half faded, an outline of a triangle wrapped in barbed wire. I'd seen that ink before, only once. 1992, Honduras. His name was Stephen Keller. We called him Static, because his voice always broke through comms like background noise, because he was never still. Stephen Keller vanished the night Torres died. Official story, desertion, unofficial, ghosted, disavowed, never spoken of again, but the tattoo was his. I took a snapshot from the frame, ran it through facial match filters, garbage, too blurry, too much shadow. Then I tried something else. I filed a FOIA request on Keller's disappearance. Of course, it came back unresolved, classified, but someone was watching because 6 hours later, my laptop was fried, literally. Burn mark across the trackpad, screen dead, smelled like burnt solder and warning. I went analog, printouts, old files, bar napkins and red pen. Finally, in an old Marine yearbook from '89, I found his photo. I held it up to the blurred frame from the tape. Same jawline, same left-handed grip on the weapon, same silence. That night, I walked into a bar in Sepulveda. Dark, empty. One of those places where the bartender doesn't ask your name and the jukebox hasn't worked since Clinton. I sat in the corner booth, ordered something cheap, didn't drink it. The file was on the table. Keller's face, the freeze frame, the triangle tattoo, all of it. I just stared, and the longer I looked, the less it felt like evidence, and the more it felt like a confession. Stephen Keller was the one man I trusted in the field more than Luis Torres. There were days in '92 when I thought Static would die for me. Now, he'd kill for someone else. Already had. The jukebox let out a static pop. A broken old love song started playing, somewhere between irony and cruelty. And I started crying. No drama, no sound, just water leaving the body through places it never belonged. Because everything we did back then, the orders, the missions, the silence, it was never about duty. It was obedience. Loyalty to nothing. Loyalty to people who vanished when we needed answers most. I wiped my face, picked up the photo, folded it in half, then I lit it. Watched the flames eat Stephen Keller's face. Watched the ashes fall into the cheap whiskey I never drank. And whispered, "You're not getting me too." The bartender said nothing, just turned the volume up, as if he didn't want to hear me anymore. And maybe neither did I. The motel was cleaner than the last one. Not by much, but enough to pretend. Mila said she knew the owner. Guy named Rudy, no last name. Took cash. Asked no questions. He handed her a room key without speaking. Didn't even look at me. Inside, 2 beds, 1 flickering lamp, and a box fan that hummed like it had secrets of its own. I locked the door, checked the window, then double-checked the lock. Trust, they say, is a decision, not a feeling. So I decided, for now. We ate in silence. Takeout from a gas station, cold fries, lukewarm soda. Mila sat cross-legged on the bed, flipping through a notebook. Names, symbols, map sketches, scribbled arrows leading nowhere. I watched her. She looked younger tonight. Or maybe I just felt older. She glanced up, caught me looking. "What?" she asked. "Nothing." She smiled, small, almost real, then said, "Tomorrow we go to Barstow. There's a name I found on one of my father's tapes. Morton Zane, retired signals officer. He might have been part of the chain." I nodded, didn't speak, because the room was starting to move. Not literally, but in that soft, dangerous way, like a carousel in reverse. I stood up. My knees didn't want to. Walked to my bag, zipped it open, took out a small box. Inside, a tape. No label, just dust, and a single scratch across the top. I hadn't watched it in 10 years. Didn't even mean to pack it. Maybe I didn't. But there it was, the last tape my daughter ever made. I turned off the light. Only the TV screen lit the room now. Blue, buzzing, alive. I fed the tape into the player. Mila watched from her bed, didn't ask. Click, whir, then image, my living room, sunlight, laughter. My daughter's voice behind the camera. "Say hi, Daddy." I appeared on screen, younger, stiffer, wearing a birthday hat someone had forced on me. I waved, awkward, half smiling. She zoomed in too close, blurry, crooked. Then she laughed in that high, bright sound that broke me. I felt my jaw clench. Tears started without permission. Mila said nothing. I let the tape play, until the image started to melt, colors bleeding, faces warping, and in the distortion, for just a second, I thought I saw a face that didn't belong there, in the background, by the window. A man, standing still, watching. I hit pause, the screen froze. Nothing, just shadows, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. "It's nothing," I said, "too fast." Mila tilted her head. "You okay?" I nodded, then shook my head, then said nothing. Because how do you explain seeing ghosts in pixels? How do you tell someone you're not sure if your own memory's still yours? That night, I didn't sleep. I heard static from the unplugged TV, from the bathroom tiles, from inside my own ears. And in the middle of it, a whisper. Not from Mila, not from the room, from the tape. "Tell Jack Rourke, I forgive him." I opened my eyes, but I wasn't sure I'd close them. The screen was off. The tape had ejected itself, and outside the window, I could have sworn I saw a lighter flicker in the dark, then vanish. I made the drop at dawn. No announcement, no signature, no claim, just a file. 38 seconds of video, blurry, raw, uncut, a man without insignia executing a hooded civilian. I uploaded it to 3 servers, 2 public, 1 hidden, then I walked away. By noon, the fragment had been downloaded 6,000 times. By evening, over 2 million. No context, no origin, just a fire with no name, and everyone trying to guess where the smoke was coming from. That night, the motel phone rang. It shouldn't have. We hadn't given out the number. I picked up. Silence, then a voice. Male, measured, calm. "Jack Rourke, this is a mistake." Click, no ID, no trace. But I recognized the cadence. Private sector, former military, contract language. A voice used to giving final warnings. Right before final actions. Wow. I told Mila we had to move. We packed in 4 minutes, didn't talk. As we left, I noticed a van parked across the street. Black, engine running, no lights. I didn't look twice. Didn't need to. We drove east. Mile after mile of desert, broken fences, gas stations that smelled like regret. Eventually, we stopped at an old campground. No cabins, just fire rings and dry wind. We built a fire. Not for warmth, for presence. The light felt like something real in a world that was starting to flicker. Mila sat across from me, legs pulled up, hoodie wrapped tight. She passed me a metal cup. Whiskey, cheap, familiar. Why now? She asked. What? Why release the video now? Why not wait? Find more? I stared into the flames. Because waiting never saved anyone, I said, and because I'm tired of being a vault. She nodded, didn't push. We watched the fire for a while, not speaking, just listening to the crackle, to the wind, to each other's breathing. Then she said, You know, I don't think he hated you. Who? My father. I looked at her. She didn't blink. I think he was afraid of what you'd become if no one ever told you the truth. I smiled, small, honest. That's the thing about the truth, I said. It's never whole, just broken mirrors, each one sharp enough to cut you. My phone buzzed. Old number. Unfamiliar city code, I answered. A voice I hadn't heard in over a decade. Jack, it's Leo. My throat closed. Leo, you're alive, barely, but not for long. He coughed, hard, wet. I saw the video. They're coming. For you, for Mila, for anyone who still remembers Honduras. He paused. They already got Zane, Morton Zane, burned him in his home, said it was electrical. I closed my eyes. Zane had been our backup signal man. He'd once carried a bullet for me, gone now, another ember, snuffed out. Leo's voice came back, fainter. Jack, they're not cleaning the past. They're rebuilding it. New footage, deep fakes, erased registries. They're rewriting everything, frame by frame. Then silence. I checked the line. Dead. Mila stared at me. What happened? I shook my head. Nothing new. We sat a while longer. The fire burned low, and for a brief moment, the heat between us felt like trust. Or maybe just two people, too tired to lie anymore. When we lay down to sleep, the coals still glowed, and I thought, if they're going to burn it all down, then let's start with a match of our own. She waited until the third motel, the one with the broken soda machine and walls thin as regret. We'd spent the night talking, not about the case, not about the past, about music, about her favorite book, about what it felt like to lose someone and still hear them laugh in your head. She even laughed that night, and that laugh, it was the last real thing. I woke up to silence, not peace, the kind of silence that hums, that waits. The room was empty. Mila's bed, cold, sheets untouched, her backpack gone, the tape bag gone too. At first I thought maybe she was outside, maybe she needed air. Then I saw the door, not the front one, the bathroom, open, still swinging, and taped to the mirror, a photograph. Me, from 2 days ago. Standing at the Barstow rest stop, looking at the camera, unaware. On the back, in neat block letters. Subject reactive, phase 3 completed, release pending. I didn't run, I didn't shout, I just sat down, on the edge of the bed, and stared at the photo until my hands stopped shaking. The knock came 20 minutes later, not loud, not urgent, just final. I opened the door, 2 men in civilian clothes, pressed shirts, eyes that had seen worse. Behind them, a van, same as before, no plates. One of them nodded. Jack Rourke. Not a question. I nodded back. They didn't draw weapons. They didn't need to. Come with us. We drove in silence. Desert stretched out in every direction, flat, dry, forgotten. Eventually we pulled up to an airstrip, abandoned, except for a single trailer, lit from the inside. I walked in, and there she was. Mila, sitting at a metal desk, calm, composed, not surprised to see me. There was a screen beside her, frozen frame, me holding the first tape, watching, reacting. I'm sorry, she said, not like she meant it, more like protocol. I needed you to open the chain. You had trust, you had emotion, the others didn't. I stepped closer. You're not his daughter. She hesitated, then shook her head. No. I looked around. The room was bare. Too bare. This wasn't an operations center. This was a test site. I was the test, I said. Mila nodded. You were the last loose end we couldn't trace, so we made ourselves visible, gave you breadcrumbs, let you lead us. She tapped the screen. You picked the drop sites, you contacted the voices, you reopened the trail. All we had to do was follow. She looked tired then, for the first time, not fake, real. None of this was personal, she said. I laughed. Dry, sharp. That's the worst part. They led me outside. Same two men, same van. They opened the back door. Inside, nothing, just darkness. One of them turned to me. No pain, no mess, just walk in. I paused. Then I did. I stepped inside and waited, eyes open, no shaking, no fear. Because I remembered something Alexei once said. The people who give orders forget. The people who follow them don't. A flash, a bang, then waking up. Dirt, wind, my hands tied, face bleeding, alive, abandoned, somewhere in the desert. No explanation, only a note taped to my chest. You were right, but not useful. I stumbled for hours, found a road, a phone, a voice that didn't ask questions. Someone came, bandaged me, drove me back. I didn't tell them who I was. Didn't matter anymore. Weeks later, I saw her again. Not in person, on a screen, news footage, Mila, under a different name, speaking at a tech conference, new face, same eyes. She smiled, talked about narrative integrity in synthetic media. Everyone applauded. I turned off the screen, sat in the dark, and whispered to no one, I forgive you, because I had done the same, once, long ago, and forgiveness is just another word for surrender. The theater had been closed for 20 years. Marquee letters missing. Posters faded into ghosts of movies no one watched. Inside, dust so thick it muffled footsteps. Seats rotted, curtains torn. But the projector booth still stood, like a crown on a ruined king. That's where I found him. Colonel Davis, last confirmed survivor of Operation Silent River. My commanding officer in 1992. The man who gave the order I followed. The one that got Luis Torres killed. He was thinner now, hair gone, hands shaking. From age or memory, I couldn't tell. But his eyes, still sharp, still calculating. He didn't stand when I entered, just lit a cigarette. Exhaled smoke like confession. Jack Rourke, he said, like a diagnosis. I thought you were dead, I said. He smiled, didn't reach his eyes. I thought the truth was dead too, he replied. I pulled out the tape, set it on the table between us. His eyes twitched. You remember this? He didn't answer. Del Rio, I said. Luis Torres, Alexei Morozov, the fake protocols, the real bodies. Still silence. So I spoke louder. Stephen Keller, your knife in the dark, the man in the mask. That one hit. Davis blinked, took a long drag, let the smoke hang. He volunteered, he said, believed in the cause. What cause? He looked at me then, hard, empty. Control. Information is noise. We were cleaning the signal. I almost hit him. Almost. But my hand stayed still. Instead, I leaned closer. You cleaned nothing. You burned real people. Men who trusted you. Men who died for a lie. He flicked ash to the floor. Didn't flinch. You followed the order too. I was 24. You were obedient. I laughed once. Dry. And you're still proud of it. He reached for the tape. I stopped his hand. Not yet. His eyes narrowed. I opened my coat, pulled out a second cassette, set it beside the first. What's that? He asked. Your copy, your voice, your face. From Honduras. From the planning tent. From before the bodies dropped. His mouth moved. Didn't speak. Then he said, How did you get that? Doesn't matter. He looked at both tapes, then at me. So what now? I stood. You explain it. To who? I pointed at the dark theater behind us. At them. At whoever's still listening. I left the room. Didn't wait for his answer. Outside, the wind picked up, dust swirling across the broken lot. I paused, looked up. A single frame from the old marquee remained. The letter F. Nothing else. I turned back once. Through the cracked glass, I saw the flicker begin. The projector turned on. Light danced on dust. The past, trying to speak. I didn't stay for the show. Some stories don't need an audience, just an ending. And sometimes, a beginning. The video reached its peak on a Thursday, midday. News anchors said unverified. Officials said fabricated. But the frames spoke louder than their mouths. A man, unmarked, firing into a kneeling prisoner, timestamp 1992. It was shared, mirrored, embedded, censored, leaked again, then dissected, dubbed over, slowed down until it became something holy or something monstrous, depending on who you asked. They called it the Judas tape. Someone gave it that name online. I didn't. Didn't name anything. Didn't comment. Didn't click. I just watched the world flinch for a moment, then move on. I live in a town that isn't on the map, near a river that doesn't flow. Locals call me Ray. I fix radios. Most of them never work again. I like it that way. No one asks questions. I don't give answers. Sometimes I hear a plane. Low, too slow to be civil, too fast to be benign. I don't flinch anymore. I don't hide. If they want me, they'll find me. But I think they already did and chose to let me stay. Last week I got a package. No name, no note, just a USB drive. I played it on a disconnected laptop inside a Faraday bag behind 4 locked doors. The file opened, and there she was. Mila, different haircut, different voice, but her eyes, still sharp, still aimed. She was giving a presentation. Topic: digital authorship and the ethics of deep memory. I watched it twice, not for the content, for the pauses. She hesitated when she said my name. Didn't say it out loud, just let it sit unspoken, like smoke from an old fire. I sat down that night, lit a candle, opened a notebook I hadn't touched in years, and I wrote a letter to my daughter. You won't read this. That's the only honest part. I've done things I won't explain because they'd only unmake you, and I've seen things that I wish I could forget, but forgetting, that's how they win. So I remembered every detail, every lie, every man I followed and every man I failed. You used to film everything, even the quiet moments, especially those. You said that's where the story really was. In the pauses, in the waiting. You were right. There's truth in the in-between. Not in the shot, but in the silence right before. That's where I found myself again, in the frame they couldn't erase. I don't want forgiveness. I just want you to know. I kept the tape rolling, even when it hurt, even when it meant being the last voice. Love, Dad. I folded the letter, didn't seal it, left it under the radio that never worked. The one she used to pretend was a spaceship. Outside, the wind picked up, and somewhere, someone pressed play.